Hello Van Heist, welcome to week number 3 of virtual learning. And as many of you know, this week on Wednesday is Earth Day. In fact, it is the 50th anniversary of the very first Earth Day, which started right here in Wisconsin. How cool is that? Now, for those of you that might not be so sure about what Earth Day is, it's a day of the year that we can celebrate being on this amazing planet with all of its cool features. Especially things that come to mind when we think of Earth Day are things like plants, and things like animals, and things like mountains, and rivers, and oceans, and air, and weather. These are all things that oftentimes we kind of forget about day to day because we're just living with it all the time. But Earth Day is a time to think about how cool these things are and how we can keep doing our part to make sure that the Earth is strong and healthy. One of my favorite ways to take care of the Earth is just to learn a little bit more about the Earth. Today we're going to focus on plants and plant life. So let's think about some plants. Here's one right here. This is called a spider plant. I've got a few plants living in my home. I bet some of you do as well. This one's a spider plant. It grows really well next to a window in the sunshine. I've got a few other plants here too. Here's a couple of succulent plants. Now, they usually have really big, thick leaves that you can tell are almost full of like leaf pulp. And these kinds of plants don't need much water because they store a lot of their water in their leaves. These are types of plants that live in more arid places or deserts or areas that don't get very much water or rain. And here we've got a miniature ficus plant. Now, a ficus is kind of like a bush, but this one was trimmed in a very special way to look like a tree. This type of tree making is called bonsai. It's the Japanese practice of making a plant like a bush look like a miniature tree. And does anyone want to take a guess what kind of plant this one is? That's right! It's a fake plant. This one doesn't have any dirt, and all of these leaves are made out of plastic. So, whether it's a fake plant, a ficus, a succulent, or a spider plant, one thing that all plants have in common is usually there is some amount of green within them. And that green color comes from a very special chemical called chlorophyll. Now, chlorophyll is what plants make from the sunlight and the water. It's a chemical inside of their leaves. It's what makes them green, and it's also what keeps the leaves energized and fed. And we're going to conduct an experiment today to see if we can use some leaves from outside to create an artwork using the chlorophyll inside of those leaves. So, without further ado, let's go out for a little adventure. Okay, for this assignment, we're going to need to find plant life with some chlorophyll in it. So we're mainly just looking for things that are green. We're going to see if we can use that little bit of chlorophyll as a form of pigment, which is the type of stuff that gives paint its color. Instead of painting with regular watercolor or tempera paint today, we're going to see if we can get some of the chlorophyll out of a leaf and onto our paper. Okay, here I am, out in nature, and I have found a bunch of examples of plant life containing chlorophyll. That is the pigment that makes them green. I also found some lovely little blue flowers. We're going to see if we can extract some pigment from these as well. So, for this activity, you are going to need a sheet of paper. This could be notebook paper, it could even be newspaper, but some kind of sheet of paper. And we're actually going to start by folding our paper over, hamburger style. You're also going to need something to pound your paper with. I found a nice rock. This could also be, you could use maybe something like a hammer You might want to ask your parents for permission for that one, but we need something to extract the pigment from these chlorophyll filled plants. So I'm going to start to assemble my plants on just one half of my sheet of paper. I'm going to leave the other half clean, and you'll see why in a minute. So when you are assembling these different bits of plant life, I want you to think about the composition. That means think about how they look when they're all together. I've got some big, I've got some small. I'm going to experiment with these blue flowers to see if we can get any color out of these as well. One there, one there. And as some of you may have guessed, whatever I do here should show up at least a little bit over on this side, because we are going to be creating a symmetrical plant life composition. All right, now it's time for the fun part. After my plant life is assembled just how I want it, I'm gonna fold my sheet of paper over. Make sure that you're holding everything down if it gets a little bit windy. Notice I'm on a very flat surface. This could be something that you do inside, but I'm gonna warn you, it gets a little bit noisy. All right, now I've got my rock, and I'm going to start to pound my paper with my rock, just like this. Do some pounding with your hand too. You really just want to try to get all of those juices out of the leaf and onto your paper. Whew. Okay, here we go. It's time for the big reveal. At this point, I'm going to open my paper up and we'll see what kind of design that we've gotten. You might find some brutally demolished leaves in here, but don't worry, we'll peel those right out. When you do this part, you want to open that paper carefully because it might be a little stuck together. Wow. Look at that. We've got a symmetrical design. I'm going to start to peel my leaves out, and you can kind of curl them like this. You're going to see kind of what remains they left. And with this project, sometimes you get really good results. Sometimes you get something that looks pretty weird and kind of gross. But it always is kind of a mystery what you're going to get. Check it out. At this point, I like to look at my image and think about what kind of things I could see in this picture. To me, it kind of reminds me of some kind of insect. It looks like these would be the legs, and maybe this is kind of like that bottom part, maybe that abdomen, and then this could almost be like eyes. What kind of picture do you think you can create on your symmetrical chlorophyll extraction paper? Try it out at home and let me know what you come up with. Send me a picture if you want to share it. Thanks for watching.